Very good evening to you. It's Friday night, just gone 7 p.m. And as always, you are tuned to the Friday Night Football Pitch live on YouTube with myself, Cameron MacDonald, and Dennis Newell as co-host. Tonight we will be talking league reconstruction in Scotland, but we'll be doing it from the point of view of the lower leagues. We'll obviously be taking a look back at European football this week, European ties. I don't think they were as good as last week's ties, the second legs of most games, but still we'll be taking a look back. Look ahead to the week's football coming up, and we'll also be asking, is there a place on the football field for you to celebrate or basically prayer or worship whilst on the park? And we'll be doing all that in conjunction with our new sponsor, Camac Fitness. So whether you're hitting the gym or you're working out from home, Camac Fitness provides personal, online and in-person training to help you smash your fitness goals. So stop dreaming and start doing. Find your strength and confidence with Camac Fitness. Visit Instagram at Camac Fitness and let's get started. If it is to be, it is up to me. Dennis, good evening. How are we?
Good evening, Cammy. I'm fine, thanks. Yourself?
Not bad at all, mate. Not bad. Thank you very much. You had a good week?
Yes, not too bad. I had a round of golf last Sunday, the first this year. The weather was excellent. Didn't play great, but it was a lovely day. Yeah, so, and then obviously we had the Champions League and Europa League, and then we had Scottish Cup ties, Scottish squad announced. So there's plenty of activity in the field of football. Some good stuff. So I don't know where you want to start, Cammy. You can.
Let's start with the Champions League, and that'll lead us into a controversial topic potentially, which could be deemed by some as obviously a controversial topic, something we touched on a number of weeks ago. But I think you may well agree. Champions League ties. I thought last week saw some excellent first legs. I thought the Liverpool game last week was outstanding. I thought the game in Madrid was brilliant. The game through in Germany as well last week was fantastic. This week, I don't think the games were quite as exciting. Possibly the only game which really I thought looked decent was the Lille Dortmund game, believe it or not, which I thought was the flattest game the week before. But Arsenal game, you would have expected that one. Obviously, that was pretty much a dead rubber. But there was still a lot to play for, I think, in most of the other Champions League games. But I just don't think they lived up to the expectations that were set last week.
Yeah, I think it would be very hard to do that, Cammy, because we really were served up total quality the week before. And, I would have found it very hard for Liverpool to, sustain the pressure that they had the week before. And they didn't need to, because obviously they were, playing at home with one goal up. A bit disappointed on them against PSG. PSG were also not the shadow they were last week. And it led me to believe, last week I'd have tipped them maybe as favourites or to get to the final. On Tuesday night, I actually thought, you've dipped a bit. This was a great challenge for you. And I know the win in penalties 4-1 is the outcome because they got the goal and then aggregate was one each. But it was a poorer game. I wouldn't say it was a bad game. If it had finished nothing each, I'd been very happy. It's another English team where I get into the next round. The surprising point with that game was that when I looked at it as player-wise, the week before, Dembele was world class. And he just seemed to not be in the same place as he was last week, you said. He just didn't seem to play the same. I'll tell you who was very poor, and he's probably one of the best players in the world, and he get tons of room, was Salah of Liverpool.
Yeah.
He had a quiet game last week, substituted, and he lasted the duration on Tuesday night. But the boy Mendes, I don't know whether he was frightened of him or not. He just never seemed to get past him or really turn him inside out, which he normally would do. And it was a really disappointing performance in the 2 games from Salah, considering the quality he's been all season. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. Take away the week before, I'd have been quite happy to be saying that was a decent match. When you're served up the quality we did have the week before, you're always expecting more, and sometimes it doesn't happen because the standards are not the same as they used to be, where you would find they're all battling really hard for it. Another game, I don't know if you watched any of that, was Atletico Madrid against Real Madrid.
Yeah, the double hit penalty.
Yeah, well, I wondered where it was. I know he slipped on it, but I think it needed that camera to be close in to show exactly that he just nicked it with both feet. So that was a bit of a shame because I think Atletico Madrid done enough for me to win that match.
Yeah.
I didn't see the first leg, but I did feel in that match they had more hunger and desire, and it looked as if they were more up for it. But Real Madrid, being Real Madrid, win 4-2 in penalties.
Yeah.
Another tie was in the Wednesday night as well, and they're going great guns. Aston Villa 3, Bruges 0, and that's a 6-1 aggregate for Aston Villa.
Yeah.
They're really on fire.
Bruges down to 10 men for much of that game. But Villa certainly did enough to win. Marcus Rashford, he actually looks as if he's adding something. He's not scoring very often, but he's certainly bringing other players through, and their 2 acquisitions in the January transfer window up front are certainly doing them the world of good, both in the league and in Europe as well, and one of them got another goal on Wednesday night, as you say. Villa have definitely looked good, and when you consider that 2 English clubs through to the quarterfinals are Arsenal and Aston Villa, I think few would have picked these to be the last representatives of England in the Champions League. Yeah.
I mean, whether Aston Villa get any further, I don't know. They've got PSG in the next round. Yeah. So that's a tough tie for them. Because, as I say, I thought PSG were poorer than they were last week. I still think they can come back, and it'll be a very, very difficult tie for Aston Villa. But we've said that through the whole season. They've been punching above their weight, when in true reality, they've proved to everyone that they've got the qualities that's needed to take them to the next level. The Arsenal game was a foregone conclusion that there was no way they were going to lose it in this. Although they drew 2 each against PSV Eindhoven, it ended up an aggregate of 9-3. I didn't watch any of the game because I didn't feel it was of value, because there's no way it was going to be turned around.
No.
You mentioned Borussia Dortmund. They've managed to squeak 3-2.
Yeah, that to me, as I say, it was obviously probably the open tie, one of the definitely open ties from the first leg. I thought Lille done really well going to Dortmund and getting a 1-1 draw in the first leg. But on Wednesday, I think obviously the experience of Dortmund showed, and they managed to sneak a 2-1 victory. And for me, as I say, that was a standout tie. I thought Dortmund looked exceptional. Could have had a few more. Some good goalkeeping and some very fortunate defending, I think, kept the tie close. But I think Dortmund ran out worthy winners come the end. And to look at their quarter-final tie, Dortmund against Barcelona. Barca are the highest scorers in the competition so far. Even if you take Arsenal, with their 9 goals in the round of 16, but Barcelona, highest scorers. Dortmund probably one of the better defences. So that should be an absolute cracking quarter-final as well.
Yeah. Well, the other team, it shows you that Celtic's results wasn't that bad when you look at it. Bayern Munich managed to be 5-0 against Bayer Leverkusen, who have gave them a torrid time this year. So you look at it, maybe Celtic's match was a game that you think, well, maybe it certainly was a game too far for them. But Bayern Munich, when you look at what's left, Cammy, you've got Arsenal, you've got Real Madrid. I can't see Arsenal getting past that one. I don't know why. I think they punch above their weight all the time. And again, I go back to the forward line. I think they never seem to have a centre forward that's going to do the job for them. So I think
No, but if you're scoring 9 goals over 2 legs, do you need them?
No, that's exactly it. They were talking about that after the 7 goals were scored, weren't they? So yeah. But I think Real Madrid will probably be a bit much for them. These ties on the 7th, the 8th and 9th.
8th and the 9th, yeah.
That's the first round. The home matches for Arsenal. Bayern Munich have gotten in Milan, another great tie. Then the Wednesday night has got Barcelona against Borussia Dortmund, brilliant. And then PSG against Aston Villa. What more can you ask for? Yeah. I still think even with the new structure, the way they've all come out of the hat, they're great ties. I think they're actually better than what's been dished up before because of the seeding.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just look at the fixtures and I say quarterfinals, absolutely brilliant. And the big guns have missed it, like Liverpool, Man City, only because they've not been as good as who they've played against. Whereas when you get into the league situations, sometimes the hand they're dealt is with maybe 2 really poor teams, so they just waltz through. Whereas here, they've really got to play an awful lot better to make sure that they get to the quarterfinals because they're going to come up against one of the big boys, and that's exactly what's happened. And that's why you're just seeing Aston Villa and Arsenal in that.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's the thing. You're looking at these 8 sides, and for by maybe Aston Villa a push, there's no minnows there. You know, every one of these sides is a massive name in the world of Europe, well, the world of European football. A massive name in European football. With the exception of Arsenal, every one of these sides has won the European Cup. Well, the Arsenal and PSG, sorry. Every one of these sides has won at least one European Championship, Champions League. Obviously we know Real Madrid have won several. Even Villa have obviously won one. So every one of these sides has been European champions with the exception of Arsenal or Paris Saint-Germain, So it does promise to serve up to be some fantastic quarterfinals, some fantastic ties, some big names. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, Dennis, I never thought I'd say this, but I genuinely cannot wait for the 8th of April for the first couple of these ties.
Yeah. Oh, no, you've got to look just around the corner. And then we'll get these fixtures. Absolutely brilliant. And it's been great. The Champions League and Europa League have been outstanding this year, And, so, it's really worthwhile. And long may that continue. And there've been good games. I wouldn't say there've been any dreadful games, but there's been a few teams that I've watched in it who didn't make the cut, and rightly so, because they were quite poor. But, it's been very, very good. The other one is obviously, if you move on to it, is your Europa League. And where do we see that one? Oh, my word. We'll leave Rangers for a minute or two. But if we look at the games that were actually played last night, Tottenham ended up good winners, 3-2. I don't think they were that brilliant in the match, but they've done enough to get through, and that's all you need to do.
AZ are a poor side, but AZ are a very poor side.
But Tottenham's struggling in now, Cammy. We know that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, you could really say they're maybe 2 games away from the manager going down the road, because there's a lot of unrest with Tottenham, with Steve Hitchen on last week. And you could see Steve's frustration. He was more or less giving up the ghost watching them.
Yeah.
I spoke briefly with him today, and he didn't think it was a really great game. So Tottenham have done brilliant. I mean, they're in the next round. What more do you want? I'm just trying to pick out the other ones.
Yeah, Manchester United obviously last night. Being Sociedad, 2 penalties.
I think that was a good
I think both were penalties. Yeah. But both were penalties, and the man Fernandes, who we slaughtered a couple of weeks ago, I think we actually even had a go at him last week.
Well, I didn't. I'll never have a go at him. Do you know why? Because I rate him. And I've always rated him.
I rate him as well, but I don't think he's consistent enough. He doesn't show enough, Dennis, for me consistently, and that's the thing. You look at great Manchester United captains of the past, for Roy Keane to Brian Robson, to
if you look at that,
the guys are consistent. Fernandes is not a Manchester United captain. He's not consistent enough.
No, but if you're going to do that, you have to look through the Manchester United team to see who's any better in them.
Yeah.
If you were looking at the squad in whatever way you want to do it, Maguire was the captain. And why was it taken off him? Because if it was taken off him, I still don't know if that is the lie of the land. But the bottom line is, Maguire's not at the level that Manchester United require to move to the next stages.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem you've got. Last week or 2 years, I did actually, it's not often I sit back and say very little, but in that instance I did. And the reason being, I kept thinking, he's not the worst player in the world that Man United's got. I think maybe the expectations from him is just maybe higher, and also because it's at Manchester United. If he's got better players in that team round about him, I think you'll find, what would you say, a more polished player than what you're seeing at this moment in time, because he's always been, what would you say, capable of doing good things. And that's the problem. He's not been doing it consistently, and therefore the finger gets pointed at him. But remember, you've got a team of 11 in that park, and I sometimes feel he's maybe the fall guy. And it wasn't just the corner last night of both of you last week saying that. I've heard it from other places.
Well, Roy Keane slaughtered them. I mean, Roy Keane's had an absolute pelters. And Paul Scholes has had a go at him, Not the greatest of co-commentators, Paul Scholes, or the greatest of analysts, but he's had a pop at him as well, So he's definitely not. I don't think he's necessarily deemed as a Manchester United, as you would say, maybe a legend or even star. You know what I mean? But for me, it's just a matter of consistency, And I think too often he's posted missing in small games. It's very rare he goes missing in big games. Let's be fair, But when Man United are playing Liverpool, City, or whatever, he does tend to turn up in these games if Manchester United are going to get something from the match. But I just think too often against the Brightons, against the Brentfords, he's posted missing. And just that's when Manchester United are needing him, because the other 10 guys around him can come up with a performance against Liverpool. But they need...
Yeah,
they need
I think
him in
the problem you've got now is if you take him out of the team, and I did say that last week, if the manager's finding these players are not working hard, they're not doing the gig, you take him out of the team and you put a youngster in. And I think that was what I pointed out last week. And he's no exception to that. But at this moment in time, is there anybody better, even with him playing 50% of what he's capable of, that is better? And that's where I would question it. But anyway, they've got through 5-2 aggregate. Absolutely brilliant result. It really was.
Yeah.
And then we look at another one, which is Eintracht Frankfurt beating the Ajax 6-2. What's happened to Ajax, Cammy? Because they were going great guns for 3 or 4 years there. And they just seem to have dipped. Is it a change of management or what? I don't honestly know.
Well, they brought in a new manager last year because the guy who replaced the guy who went to Manchester United, the guy who replaced him really struggled. And as I say, Ajax last season started the season off in horror fashion. I think midway through the season they were looking at relegation, and they finished the season absolutely flying. Obviously got themselves into a European spot. But yeah, I mean, Ajax are a side who they do struggle at times in European games, So, and obviously last night they've done that again.
Yeah. Well, looking at the fixtures, we'll just take the ones there and then we'll go back immediately to the Rangers game. Tottenham, we've got Eintracht, who just mentioned there. And I think that'll be a good tie to watch because they have got to do something, Tottenham. And Eintracht, who have had a good result, will be up for this tie. So that could be a good battle there. That's on Thursday the 10th. Olympique Lyonnais have got Manchester United, and they scored a barrel load of goals in that last tie. So much so that you say to yourself, can they over 7-1 aggregate they win? Can they actually turn over Manchester United? Is that possible?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it depends what Manchester United turn up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the thing.
We'll see. Anyway, that takes us, we'll go back one step to last night's games. And we can't sort of gloss over it. Rangers' result against Fenerbahce was incredible. They didn't play that well, to the point that they lost the goals without really having many attempts. But when I looked at the Rangers, I actually thought they had played probably better than they did the week before.
Mm-hmm.
Their commitment and their effort and their battling qualities was unquestionable.
Yep.
And to be honest, if I had the same hat that Clement had with all the names in it, that's the ones I would have really brought out the bag. I don't think Barry Ferguson could have played a better team to start the game than he did. I think he's got that right. And they really looked very, very good. Fenerbahce, I thought, were lacklustre. I thought Fred made a difference because he wasn't available the week before with suspension. And he came into it and he made a difference. There was a period in the game, though, I thought Fenerbahce could go on and win this maybe 4-0. It was at that point.
Yeah.
But because Ferguson's got them willing to roll up their sleeves and battle, and I keep saying this week in and week out, what you're lacking in the quality, if you've not got it, make sure that you've got commitment to get you through it. And that's what Rangers done last night. And they can't be faulted for that. I thought they're absolutely brilliant. And they thoroughly deserved the victory. Thoroughly deserved it.
Yeah.
Even if you look at the first game away, between the two matches, I think Rangers deserved to qualify.
I think so. I think the thing about last night is obviously Fenerbahce. The game pretty much the first half was much a muchness. Rangers possibly actually deciding the ascendancy, possibly had a better first half. But then obviously Fenerbahce get the goal right before half time, which obviously swings the game a wee bit in their favour, and that's always a big thing, but when you can score.
It was a bad time
so
for
they
Rangers.
got that really, really bad time. So Fenerbahce go in at half time, 1-up. And then in the second half, obviously, they get the second goal. And I think Rangers will maybe fortunate to get it to penalties, But certainly when you get to the penalty shootout, Jack Butland's made a couple of fantastic saves. The guy you were talking about, Fred, you can't ask for more than that. A low shot down to Butland's right-hand side. The miss, for the one that sent Rangers through, obviously the boy blazing it over the bar. I think that's still to come down. That's still in the stratosphere. He put it that far over the bar, and I think you're right. I think over the two legs, Rangers did enough to deserve the victory. But as I said to you last Saturday morning, I thought Rangers were going to go out even after the game on a Thursday night. I thought Rangers would go out. I'm glad to be proved wrong. But it was a lot tighter than many Rangers supporters would have liked, that's for sure. Yeah,
without a question of doubt. I mean, when you look at Rangers' season so far, and well, obviously with the Old Firm match coming up, we'll expand a bit more on that. But if you look at them in Europe, that is not the same team that we see playing in Scotland. It's totally different. Yeah, it's the same guys,
Yeah.
I look at Dessers last night. Now, I certainly wouldn't have taken Dessers off. I've criticised him all season. But last night, I would never have taken him off. Do you know why? The big centre-half was struggling big time with him. Big time. He was mauling him. He was pulling him to the ground. And I thought, by the way, Dessers, that's good, strong upper body strength you've got there. And, when you look at it, these are European guys. Why are you not doing it against maybe the lesser teams, if you want to call it that, Ross County, etc., Dundee? Why are you not able to do that? And it just makes me wonder what their mindset is sometimes when they go in the park. But when they changed it with Dessers, with the wee guy that wants to pray every 2 minutes when he goes on the park, makes me think to myself, I don't believe that you can find the same qualities with Egerman coming on to replacing Dessers at this moment in time, because there is only one centre forward, and it's Dessers in Europe. And the other thing as well is you look at it and you see yourself last night, was Barry Ferguson actually thinking, I forgive everybody a run out. Because there was times I thought maybe fine-tune it with one or two players, but he just wanted to put on players, I felt, just for the sake of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They made 5 substitutions last night. And I thought that wasn't needed. You could maybe, you could have saved some of them, but I don't believe he needed to change as much as that, Cammy. I'm not saying it would have changed the game or the result. They got the result, so good on them for getting more or less everything right. You can always nitpick and find faults if you want it. But Mourinho, I'm quite happy he get beat because I'm not the biggest fan of him. I don't think if he came to Ibrox, he would actually last that much longer because he just wants to throw money at players or buy
100%,
players. So you look at him and go, you're not a real manager. A real manager is able to get in the trenches and get his hands dirty and be able to bring players on that possibly were never that great. Somebody might say, oh, well, he's brought this player on, he brought that player. But they already were 3/4 of the way there to be a finished article. I like to see people bringing players through the ranks, maybe even for non-league football, making them Premier League players, making them do a good job and then sell them on. This guy just buys for fun. And to me, it's not my way of football. I think it's everything that's wrong about football. So for Jose Mourinho, I'm sure he's a very, very nice person and he'll not be giving a damn what I think of him. But the bottom line is, on the football terms, it isn't. I've not got a lot of time for the way that he manages. So delighted that Rangers got the result.
Yeah, and looking ahead to obviously the quarterfinals in the Europa League. Probably Lazio certainly getting a just reward for being the side, as you say, on who won the group stage. You know, so in terms of obviously seedings, Lazio have got Bodo Glimt. I think the Norwegian side. Rangers, I think Rangers get the toughest tie of all. You know, a game against Athletic Club Bilbao. Who obviously I think Bilbao's hosting the final. Then you get Manchester United and Lyon on and Spurs against Eintracht Frankfurt. You know, so 2 or 3 attractive ties there. I think obviously the Rangers, Athletic Club Bilbao, Lyon, Manchester United, and Spurs against Eintracht Frankfurt. Are all attractive ties, you know. Not so much the Norwegian one, then, you know. But it definitely promises to be a good Europa League. That's for sure.
Well, we're into the 10th of April, and you have 3 British clubs still in the Europa League, and we've got 2 in the Champions League. It's not a bad shout.
It's not bad at all. You know, it's definitely not bad.
A couple of the big guns are out of it, but it's still it gives you a good interest from my point of view. I look at that, and there's Man United, Rangers, and Tottenham that I'll really be keen to watch and see how they got on. And good entertainment. Yeah.
And the one thing about obviously this week, as you mentioned, we've got the Old Firm game. We'll just very quickly touch on that. I think if you're a Rangers fan and a Rangers player, and certainly the Rangers manager, you'll be delighted the game's at Celtic Park because you cannot buy a result at Ibrox. You know, that's 4 consecutive defeats that Rangers have had at Ibrox. You know, with the cup tie against Queen's Park, the 2 league games against St Mirren and Motherwell, and then obviously last night against Fenerbahce. You know, when's the last time, Dennis, has it happened that a Rangers side lost 4 straight games at Ibrox?
I have no idea. The bottom line is that it's what turns up. Now, my thoughts are they played last night. They'll be on the ceiling still with being in a high. They've got today to try and come round. They've then got Saturday, maybe a bit of light training, and then they're into it again. And I just wonder whether they have got the energy, because if you recall, and we would never put them in the same zone normally as Aberdeen. Over the years, you would always assume Rangers are such a gulf. But at this moment in time, look what happened to Aberdeen when they came to play Rangers after a Cup European tie. They get blown away. And my thoughts are that Rangers are not much better, if they are better, than Aberdeen at this moment in time. And I'm just a bit concerned that the same thing could happen in relation to it being a short turnaround before they go to Parkhead. They've got supporters there, so there's a bonus, and we'll get a wee lift with that. But it's going to be a tough tie. And I'll tell you what, and here's throwing one in the ring. If Rangers turn over Celtic at Parkhead, they've got to seriously consider Barry Ferguson, no matter what happens the rest of the season, for the job.
That's a big one, that.
I know that, but seriously,
that's a big one.
But you look at it, I know on the back of that he was beaten with Motherwell, and it's a quick turnaround, but the 2 European ties that he's come up against, they've worked their socks off. If he can do the same against Celtic and catch them on the hop, and he turns them over, what's to say that if he had a bit of a freedom to bring in players in the summer, he can't do a steady job? And I'll tell you what, I reckon they would consider it. Do you know why? Because they've no money. And unless new sponsors come in.
I think the 49ers deal's definitely looking like being concluded, right, so I think that'll be concluded for the start of the season by the looks of things. Talking to Rangers support and friends at work and things like that, I think that will definitely be concluded. So I think we're looking at a Rangers side having some money, so.
But I don't think Barry Ferguson can get much more out of the players he's got at this moment in time, Cammy. Honestly, don't.
No.
I don't think there's anything skill factor wise that they can't. Tierney last night was outstanding. He could maybe have done with, instead of keep running into a blind alley all the time, maybe had a wee bit more support that he could have just slipped the ball to someone, and it might have made a difference to the scoring chances he created. But overall, I don't think that he can get much more out of the players, because there's a ceiling that every player has, and he's probably got more out of them in a few games than Clement got in over a year. Yeah.
He's done what, at the end of the day, he's taken what Clement done in Europe and taken that on, The big test, I think, will be at the weekend. I think the big test will be Sunday at Celtic Park, in that Old Firm game, as to whether Barry Ferguson has what it takes to do anything for Rangers at all. I think he's getting a free hit in Europe. Let's be fair. I think at the end of the day, he'll get a free hit there. It just depends what he does in the league. And at the end of the day, the league's gone for Rangers. That's for sure. That they're pretty much assured the second spot. But as I say, if he can get a couple of victories against Celtic in the remaining Old Firm games, I think you're maybe right. I think that could go a long way to cementing them certainly as part of some kind of part of the Rangers coaching staff.
Well, I think
afterwards
they would need to be considered, because whether that deal goes through or not, if he has turned round, and the guy did say, judge me after my 3 months, that's a fair shout. Entitled to do that. A lot of negativity about him, but he's playing with his heart in his sleeve. And to be honest, if you'd done that in the Scottish Premiership, they wouldn't be in the same situation they're in now. So maybe he's just getting them up, fired in their belly. But the players have got to turn up for this, Cammy. It's not Barry Ferguson that's putting the jersey on Saturday. It's the players. So how can they do it against a European side and be very, very good, and then turn up against Motherwell? When they disrespect to Motherwell should be nowhere near them because of the financial difference between the two clubs.
Yeah, indeed.
So,
indeed.
That's a question mark over Rangers. And to be honest, is it better than Clement? Without a question of doubt. I think it is. I think looking at that game last night, far, far better energies coming out of the players. Even if it was lacking maybe that little bit more skill than you would want for a Rangers team, they certainly were a good bit better than they were 5-6 weeks ago.
Yeah, indeed. What other fixtures have we got? Well, we'll look at the fixtures for the rest of the week, and then we'll discuss the league reconstruction and possibly ask the question that we discussed at the start of the show.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? What league? Premier League?
Let's get the Premier League done. Let's look at the Scottish fixtures.
Yeah, well, we've got Hearts against Ross County. I don't know if you watched them last week. Did you catch up with them, Cam?
No, I've not caught much of the games at all. I've had a week for hell, to be honest. So no, I've not caught much of them.
No, right, okay. Well, I'll run through the fixtures. You've got Hearts and Ross County, Kilmarnock Hibs, Motherwell St Mirren, and St Johnstone Aberdeen. And then on Sunday, you've got Celtic are playing Rangers. That's a 12:30 kickoff. And Dundee United have Dundee at 3 p.m. The other times are Saturday at 3 p.m. You've got to remember that last week we had the Scottish Cup ties, of course. And we can maybe just talk on them at some point with the fixtures that went ahead. Looking at the league placings, I think Hearts are needing to maybe try and pick up a wee bit more, or Hibs is going to, because that'll be their yardstick. I think Hearts will gauge their sell against Hibs, the same as Celtic do with Rangers. So Hearts are sitting in 36 points, and Hibs, unbelievably, are sitting in 43. Last half dozen games, it's more than that now. Certainly, I'm looking back at the last 6. They've won 4 and they've drawn 2. Would you have believed that away back?
Hibs have been outstanding. Hibs have been absolutely outstanding. But the big tester now will be how they cope with the cup exit last week. You know, obviously their first defeat, as you say, in 7. So that'll be the big test, I think, for Hibs. Can David Gray lift them again after obviously the defeat to Celtic last week, which I think actually Hibs acquitted themselves quite well, but as I say, they need to pick themselves up for the bread and butter stuff again and get a wee lift from that.
The Hearts side of it has been going very well too. They should get a lift with Hearts beating St Mirren 4-2 in penalties last week in the Scottish Cup 5th round. So that, a lot of teams weren't playing. That will give them a lift in relation to going into this week's game, which we've just talked about there. So, we'll just need to see how they go on. But Ross County, they're up and down. I just can't figure them out. You look at that.
No, you don't know what Ross County is turning up.
You don't know what they're going to dish up.
Now, Dennis, we've got a special guest. Well, not so much a special guest. We've got somebody want to join us in the chat or join us on the show. Tommy Ross, I work with Tommy, and he's one royal pain in the backside at times, you know what I mean? But he's one to come on. I think he maybe knows you for his time in the juniors, believe it or not. Or certainly you might have crossed swords. So we are joined live from somewhere in deepest, darkest Glasgow by Tommy Ross. Tommy, how are we doing?
I'm good, Cammy. Yourself, mate?
Not bad at all, mate. Not bad at all. You are live on air.
Excellent.
You're want to talk with the Rangers, but listen, do you two know each other? Did you ever cross swords when you were at juniors?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say it's nice to meet you, Dennis.
You too, Tommy.
And who did you play with, Dennis?
Oh, how long have you got? We finish it. It's 8 o'clock.
I feel as if I'm looking in the mirror here. You look very like me.
All right, we're both in drugs then, so you carry on.
The first one I want to ask you, you didn't answer Cammy's question. When was the last time Rangers lost 4 games at Ibrox?
Well, I don't know. That's the question. Yeah,
I'm going to tell you it's never happened. Is
that right? Well,
never.
That's why I wouldn't know either. No, it wouldn't seem right. But again, Sunday's game is not about losing at Ibrox. The bottom line is they're away from home. It's the game after that you got to worry about.
Yeah. But on you saying you feel there's a big difference for Barry Ferguson's come in. I've got to disagree with you there, Dennis.
No, well, you can. That's what we're here for. I don't mind. I think the work ethic is better than it was before. I'm not saying the quality, and I've already said that earlier. The quality is not a great deal better, but sometimes when you don't have the talent and you get them to actually work harder, it makes up for the deficiency.
I totally agree with you there.
That's the point I'd like to make with Barry Ferguson doing it. He's got them committed to the job. Clement didn't, and that's the hard part. When you look at it, last night as an example, they knuckled down. They couldn't have worked any harder. I've seen them going out with Clement, and you could see boys down the park working themselves a bit harder than what they were doing with Clement, and he couldn't get them motivated. Whether Ferguson rules by fear is neither here nor there, but the bottom line is he's got more out of them, and it was more entertaining. Now you could go back to the Motherwell game and say, well, no, that's where I don't believe you, because you're right, it wasn't great and it wasn't very good. But I'm just looking at the last 2 European matches, and I thought their commitment was outstanding.
But it's based on, you're saying they'll get more out the Rangers team now. They still lost 2-0 last night.
I'd agree with that because
and penalties, everybody's forgot the result.
No, I've been saying in numerous weeks when they maybe scrape by the amount of chances that Dessers used to miss. He might score 2, but he's missed 5, and the game could be won when Rangers are under the cosh. There's examples like that, but that's going back to the fact of the talent. The talent is limited, right? And you will find that you won't score goals with limited talent, like last night. So you just have to put up with that. I think if you can see a team that is, and you know that if you're obviously a Rangers man, that basically if your team is battling on the park for you, you can leave that stadium going, well, we've done our best. And until somebody comes in and refreshes the team with better players, things won't get much better. But they're better in my eyes than they were before. And there's a wee chance that if they can keep working hard, they might come out the other end of it.
Tommy, do you think Rangers can win on Sunday?
Sorry?
Do you think Rangers can win on Sunday?
No.
I think it'll be a toughie.
Very, very hard task.
Yes.
Very, very hard.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. But Dennis, I would love to ask you a question that's been in my mind for Desert sign. See Desert signing for Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people I've spoke to about that guy. I've always said there's a player in him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was a centre forward, Dennis.
Right.
And I see something in him that I didn't see in Morelos.
Yep.
And Morelos was a hero at Ibrox.
Mm-hmm.
And Desert's record, I believe, is better than Morelos's. And Morelos missed as many chances as Desert's missed.
Yeah.
And it's a thing I call the fans picking their victims.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened to that guy.
Yeah. To Dessers, you mean? Do you think?
I think they've picked a victim in him.
I'm a big culprit because I'll tell you what, I look at the amount of chances that he has actually missed and highlight them more than the goals.
Yeah.
Because if he was playing with, say, Dundee, right?
Yeah.
How many chances do you think he would get in a game? 2?
No half as many as it does at Ibrox.
So have a look at the conversion rate of the amount of chances that's created for him playing with Rangers, and then make a comparison with taking 8 chances, or we'll no exaggerate, we'll say 4 chances in a game at Ibrox, without any question of doubt in a game. The opportunity is there for 4 chances.
Yeah.
Ali McCoy would take maybe 3 of them. You're at least expecting your centre forward to score 2. But that is 4, that's double the amount of chances he would get in Dundee. So if he's playing with Dundee and he gets 2 chances, his goal ratio is poor because he's not going to miss them because he missed consistently. Yeah. And I said this a month ago. When
if you compared that to Morelos's.
Oh well, right. Listen, I'm not a Morelos fan.
And then you look back, Dennis. Ali McCoy's got the same treatment.
Yes.
And then Mark
McCoy's was finisher. And
then Mark Catley also got the same treatment.
Yeah.
These guys have all left that club as legends.
You're correct with the 2 you mentioned.
McCoy, Catley and Morelos.
Yeah.
They're all legends in the Rangers fans' eyes.
Well, Morelos is not my cup of tea.
All mine's, mate. No. He couldn't trap a bag of cement.
No, and he's lazy boy. I don't like lazy players. I've got time for lazy players.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Dessers. Dessers gives you an effort. You know, whether he's going to score or not, you get effort from him, Dennis. That's for sure, you know.
Well, I've said that earlier.
Misses too much. Yeah.
I said earlier about Dessers, the fact of last night when he changed it to Egerman, who only wants to play in a phone box with the ball and nutmeg people. And I look at the comparison between the 2, and Dessers was causing chaos with the big centre half. Big centre half didn't know how to handle him. He was mauling up to the ground and everything, and he changed it. And I thought, is he just willing to give everybody a shout tonight? When in actual fact, Dessers should have stayed in the park because I think that was the best chance Rangers had of scoring. Now,
100%.
I said last week I would have stopped playing Dessers and sold him because when he comes back to Scotland, the bottom line is his value will go down the toilet again if he keeps missing the chances he's got. But he's got more confidence than he should have
offered them a Mourinho because he says he was world class last week. you'd maybe get 50 million for him.
Well, you never know, because he's daft enough to pay.
Mourinho overpay for a player. That's it.
Yeah, that was one of the best. That was one of the best managers in the world at the time. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
says Dessers was world class.
Aye, but he's lost the
plot. The thing is, you're talking 4 or 5 years ago, Tom. He's lost the plot for then. You know what I mean? That's the thing. But
so the thing with Dessers is, he's a hit or a miss, and every club has had it. From when I was a teenager watching clubs and all the rest of it, Celtic, Rangers, there was always somebody a fall guy, but the manager always
every club has it. Yeah,
the manager always seemed fit to play him every week, and he would never be the fans in the terrace would never be 100% happy, because they're maybe looking at it and saying they want the finished article. Not everybody's a finished article, but I think now, and I go back to, if you're giving Dessers the money he's getting, I'm looking for a better return than what I'm getting. If you're playing with Rangers or you're playing with Celtic, you have got to produce a bigger turnover in relation to your percentage scoring rate. Now, I know what you're saying, Tommy.
100%.
Scoring rate is good, but if you really look at the amount of chances the boys missed, they would be up there competing against Celtic. And last year, he was guilty at the end of the season by not taking the chances in the 2 matches against Dundee and Ross County, which created the gap for Rangers to lose the league. Yeah. And if you look at the chances he missed back then, that could have been the difference between Rangers competing and winning the league and not. And nobody ever picks that up, because they just assume, well, he scores one here and there, and they forget the bad shots. And my view always, and I've said to Cammy on here before, is from a management point of view, it's quite negative when I look at a game sometimes. I don't look at the 2 goals somebody would score. I look at the 3 that he's missed.
Yeah, 100%. Dennis, can I say this to you? And anybody listening to this podcast tonight, they might say, this guy's crazy. But see, if I got the opportunity when I was on my game, when I was maybe 22, 23, on the chances that Rangers and Celtic create, I'd be looking to score 45 plus goals a season.
You're right, Tommy.
Easily, mate. Easily.
Yep. Mm-hmm. You look at it in a regular time now, and I shake my head sometimes and I go, how did they miss that? Yeah. But the standards dropped away back for our era. That's the problem. I look at players I had when I was managing junior. Probably some of them would be good enough to play in the Championship now. Yeah. And that shows you how the golf has went in the last 30 years.
That question I've just said to you there, I was putting myself up against Chris Boyd.
Right.
He was classed as a Rangers great with his goal scoring record. But I feel if I was playing in that Rangers team at that time, I would have scored more goals than Chris Boyd.
Yeah.
You might get a reaction for the podcast, people saying this guy's crazy. But it's a fact, Dennis. It's a fact.
There's an element where I can be delusional as well, and I'll use that slowly, Tommy, because...
What position did you play, Dennis?
I played up front and then I went into midfield. The thing about it is that there's a difference in the pace of the game.
Yeah. Right?
Every amateur will tell you can play junior. Every junior will tell you can play senior. And everybody at the bottom of the second division can tell you they'll play in the Premier League.
100%.
Until you put them there. And it's the same with players. And we have Andy Millen, who has played over 700 senior games on here regular.
Right.
And he's an assistant manager at Morton. Now, Andy and I go back, and Cammy go back for a long number of years. And he's always stated, and this came from Tommy Burns when he was at Kilmarnock, that not everyone, we use Celtic and Rangers again as an example, not everybody that goes and plays with the old firm will be a star, even although they've came from, say, Motherwell. Like Liam Miller could go to maybe Rangers, Celtic, whatever.
Yep.
That boy might not make it because it's a different breed and a different animal that goes to these clubs. You've got to be able to make it. And it's the same when you look at stepping up. I'm not disputing that you could have scored more goals than Chris Boyd. And there's sometimes I used to look at it and go, well, I think I could have scored there. But then there's some people that would say that no man went go, no, you wouldn't.
Craig Brown's one of them, Dennis.
Yeah, well, we had that story, didn't we?
You don't think I'm crazy for saying that, Dennis?
You're not crazy. You're in the position where I think a lot of people do think that. But when you step up, it's not as easy.
When you go up a level.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
It's not easy.
No bother. How was that, Sam? You enjoy that?
Yeah. Moving down the leagues. Can Falkirk go up this year?
Well, it's looking very much.
Do they have the bottle?
I've tipped them to win the league, so I probably will. I thought it might have been a kiss of death, but there's 6 points between them and Ayr United. And,
all games level. All played the same games.
Yeah, same amount of games. And Ayr United bogey was getting beat last week. That was the problem.
Do you think Falkirk would be would you think they'd be a good addition to the SPL?
I don't see why not.
Yeah,
the only problem I've got is the pitch conditions, you know. It is still artificial, Cammy, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think they'd need to look at, well, again, we've discussed that as well, you know, grass and things like that, you know, but... they've
got to do away with the artificial. You shouldn't be allowed in the SPL 100%. With an artificial playing surface.
100%. You only need to... Listen, what I will say about the artificial pitch at Falkirk, it's a damn sight better than what they have at Hamilton. It's a damn sight better than what they have at Kilmarnock. Yeah. The pitch at Kilmarnock's dreadful. Falkirk is whether it's a 4G or whatever the hell it is, you know what I mean? I think I'm talking about phone reception when I keep talking about football pitches, you know, but it is a fantastic surface, and it's probably the truest surface you'll get on an artificial park, but it's still no grass, you know, and I still think players would far prefer to play on grass than what they would on that artificial surface. I know probably you two would, certainly at this age now, you know, with your dodgy knees and things like that, you know. The only thing Tommy uses it's artificials. His wee grass mat, his wee mat for his golf.
Cammy, if I was playing in artificial surfaces like the new mate, I'd be doing 60 goals a season. I used to play in the red ash. I used to play in the red ash with nylon studs.
Yeah. Right.
The thing is, though, that I would never ever seen a game that I would want to go and pay money in to watch an artificial surface.
No, definitely.
I've never seen a good match on it. I'll say a great match because there's some decent matches, right? But they're not great. And I think that you've already touched it, and we've rattled our gums many a time on here, that as far as I'm concerned, if you can't be sustainable without relying on an artificial pitch to bring in finances, then you shouldn't be involved or expecting to be playing at the top table. And that's a problem. And I would go as far as even saying that in the Championship. I would say that as well. And let the lower divisions, who really need to be self-sufficient, have the artificial surfaces. Encourage them actually to have the artificial surfaces. But once they move up, there's enough funding that should be there to actually change it.
Yeah.
To bring grass in. 100%. 100%.
Definitely. But listen, guys, it's been great getting on for this last 15 minutes. And hopefully have other times in the future. And I look forward to maybe a week tomorrow going to see the Falkirk, the Clyde, against one of my ex-junior teams when Lithgow Rose.
Bonnyrigg Rose.
Bonnyrigg. I get mixed up with you too, Cammy. Cammy, you know sometimes I get mixed up, don't you?
Once or twice, Dave. Once or twice. Yeah. Listen, it's been good to catch you on here, mate.
I look forward to seeing that at Broadwood next week, mate.
Good, Tommy.
You're going to Broadwood, we're going to Hamilton next week. Right, I'll see you later on.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, see you Tommy.
Later on, Tommy. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that was Tommy.
That was Tommy Ross from. Listen, he's had a good career as a player of juniors. If half of what he says is true, you know, he had a good career as a junior player, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously a good Rangers man.
His comments are really valid and they're worthwhile to the point that he can see more or less. We can be splitting hairs with how I disagree to a point with me, but when you explain it, he's understanding where I'm coming from with that, and he's in agreement with it. So, no, I think we're all off the same hymn sheet there. And that takes
the one thing I will say about Tommy is he's a Rangers man with a wee bit, you know, his judgment isn't clouded by the blue-coloured glasses, you know. He can be quite honest in his assessment of what happens in games and things like that, you know, whereas a lot of fans, myself included, can be quite clouded at times, you know. So there you go. But no, as you say, that takes us to hymn sheets. And we touched on it earlier on, Dennis. We've touched on it previous episodes, previous shows, about the religious aspect that's really starting to creep into the game across Europe, and obviously in alignment with what's happening in the world these days, certainly, but we ask the question, is there a place for worshipping or bringing your religion onto the park, or should it be left in the dressing room? Now, this isn't a West of Scotland thing. It's not a Protestant Catholic. It's not a Muslim Christian question. But far too often now, before games, during games, before penalty shootouts, as we've seen over the last couple of nights, we have situations where we've got players blessing themselves, players giving thanks to whoever their God or whoever it is that happens to be, and to me, there's no place for that in the game. It can be incitement, it can be deemed incitement. I think, Dennis, when we have situations where FIFA and UEFA are banning players from wearing poppies, they're banning players from wearing slogans on their T-shirts, which maybe commemorate deaths or whatever else, I think the fact that we're allowing players on the park to essentially worship on the park, I think it's wrong, and I don't think there's any place for that in European football. I think you share a similar view.
Yeah, I do, because if there's a need for it, then I'll always say okay. And I go back to what you said at the beginning there. This is no a jump into religion in real terms. It's about the significance of what it actually is to the people watching the game, what it is to the players that are doing it, and also what it does for the future of the game, because kids pick up everything, right? They pick up everything. Yeah. It'll not be 2 minutes down the road before we wander along a public park and the kids will have the back of the stockings all cutouts because they've seen it on the television, thinking that this is trendy and this works. I mean, it started with tattoos with Beckham, and it's rife now, absolutely rife. And you've got the hairstyles to go with it now. They're actually, they're at a stage now where appearance seems to be better looked after than the quality of their football. And I'm seeing that all the time now. They're more interested in how they look than how they play, and going on to the point that you've made there, it's a whole package that I look at. And where I brought it to your attention was the fact that Eagleman at Rangers came on the park, I think it's 3 weeks ago now. And as he came on the park, he stood there and actually, if you go back long enough, I think I explained at the time, he had his hands like this and he's praying in his own God or whatever, and nothing wrong with that. And then he does this and he looks at the side, he just squints at the side to see if the cameras are watching him.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is not for you to pray to your God. This is you looking for attention seeking, and you're a sad person if this is how you think you're going to get it. You're there to play football. There is no reason, and this is right across the board, that a player can't do that in the dressing room or in the tunnel if it's that important.
100%.
It's a substitute. Go up the tunnel and do it. Do not put that in the public eye, because they all know the cameras are on them. I seen it with Fenerbahce boy last week. He was actually doing it at the warm-up. The same thing. He can't kick his backside, and Mourinho spent £17 million on him. I'll tell you what, it's more than his God that he's needing to look after him, because he was brutal last night as well. So I look at these players and I think, this is not making them better players or better people. It's just showing them up for what they are. They are actually quite deficient in the way they actually handle themselves, going out onto a football pitch, which is meant to be a job of work. If everybody went into their job of work in the morning and started doing that, people wouldn't be very happy about it, right? Because it would be offensive to people. And it's the same at the time I said to you is, let's assume that Eagleman was a Roman Catholic, and he comes to the edge of the pitch and he makes the sign of the cross 4, 5 or 6 times, and he misses a couple of chances. The Rangers supporters would lynch him.
Yeah.
Because of the religious bigotry, etc., that we've got in the west of Scotland. No, I'm not saying that's right, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but there's no need to bring that to attention of people who have a hatred for it. So therefore, I think it should stop right across the board before we get youngsters thinking this is the end thing, this is the trend, and we can come out with all this stuff that you think is going to make you a better player. Pray to your God, absolutely nothing against it. Nothing whatsoever. But there's a time and a place for it, and it's behind, not in front of the supporters where you're looking for attention, because that's all these boys are, attention seekers, and the bulk of them can't kick their own backside, and they're getting paid a fortune.
Well, as you say, you don't date before your work. You don't pray to God. You don't do whatever you do. I don't have anybody coming into my work who are wanting to pray or whatever else. It's done in the privacy of their own home, or if they're that way inclined, of their own mosque or of their own church, or whatever else, So they keep it behind closed doors. I think with all the unrest in the world, which 90% of that comes from religion, if we take away Ukraine and Russia, take that one out, but as I say, the rest of the unrest in the world, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Palestine, whether it's, wherever it is, whether it's Northern Ireland, that we've had in the past, it's all been caused through religion. And I think if we're in a situation there where players can be deemed to almost be inciting some kind of disrespect or whatever else, there's no place in that, as to me, in public, Tammy, on a football field.
They don't have the intelligence to understand it can incite trouble. Imagine you're sitting in an office and I chap your door and go, can I come in? Aye, and you come, Dennis. Oh, here we go. You'd be like, beat him.
Aye.
Or, there we go. You wouldn't accept that. So why is it any different in a football park when you've got maybe 50, 60,000 people standing there? It's so you can be viewed. Oh, look at him. Oh, he's a religious person. What a load of garbage. If you want to be religious, don't ram it down anybody's throat. Do it in the dressing room. Stay away from other people that might be offended by it. I find it offensive because there's no need for it. Absolutely no need. And it's only for attention. Absolutely one thing and one thing only. So that's my rant for this week anyway on the back of that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Obviously, we were going to look at the restructuring of Tier 5 in terms of football restructuring in the leagues. We'll keep that and do that next week. I know obviously in the next couple of weeks we've got a couple of guests coming up which you've arranged. I'm not sure whether that's next week or the following week, but as I say, that's, and I think we'd planned that for a couple of weeks' time. So maybe next week we'll look at the restructuring again. We keep threatening to visit, so we'll get that done because unfortunately, as Tommy will tell you, some of us are up early in the morning for work, So I mean, I'm out my bed in 6 hours' time for work, so I could really do with getting for a kip. So we'll call it quits here tonight.
Yeah. And then just why don't we finish on Clyde, because I know that's your your bogey team. Will we call them?
Aye, that's it. Aye, listen, definitely.
Just touching on it, I know it'll only take a couple of minutes. Getting beat 2-1 with East Fife, who are now sitting at the top of the league. Is it still doing
another home defeat? I think so. I genuinely think so, because I think if you take the fact that Forfar won again last week as well, I think you've got a gap now. It's getting closer and closer. I think Clyde are only 4 points clear of Forfar. And I obviously remember what happened at the tail end of last season. Clyde were cut so far adrift, and yet came with a fantastic end of the season run after Ian McCall had been appointed manager. And as I say, I think it only takes that. You've got Bonnyrigg Rose, who are down there that Tommy mentioned earlier on, which I think why next week's game is going to be a massive game for both sides. But you got Bonnyrigg Rose, who are down there only by virtue of obviously points deductions. So I think Clyde are definitely right in the mire. And I says on this show a couple of weeks ago that I think Forfar have got enough to pull it out. The following day they lost. The following day they lost 1-0 at Station Park to Clyde. Clyde's only away victory of the season. But no, I think Clyde tomorrow, a very, very difficult away tie. They're heading north to Elgin. Forfar already beat them, as I say, during the week, or certainly at the weekend. So, yeah, I think it is doom and gloom. And I think if Clyde are relegated, I think it'll be the end of the club. You know, I just think they don't have a
they've
home.
Not got their own ground, you know what I mean? And financially, the restraints on going and using another club that's potentially challenging to get into the Premiership somewhere along the line, you're not going to have the finances to do that. But anyway, just on one final thing, we have the Nations League is on Thursday before we come back on Friday. We are playing Greece at 7:45 in Greece. And I don't know, did you get a chance to actually look at the squad?
No, not yet.
Well, there's very little change in it. So I think
I know. Obviously, he's brought in a couple. He's brought in Lennon Miller,
and the wee boy Wilson.
He's brought in James Wilson for Hearts. You know, I know he's brought the two in. So I'm aware of that. Whether they get a game or not is another matter, or whether it's just for a wee bit of experience. I'd love to see either of the two of them getting a game, you know, whether it's a run out, whether it's 20 minutes, whether it's half hour, whether it's the start of the game and gets, you know, it'd be great for Steve. It'd be great, I think, if Steve Clarke did give either the two of them minutes on the park, that's for sure.
I can't see it, but I look at the team and it's not so much jaded as it's not freshened up with people that you would throw right in. Maybe Lewis Ferguson would be one. I don't know anything about the boy Max Johnson. But when I look at the rest of them, they're almost, and I'll use the saying very lightly, also rans. You've still got the Grant Hanleys, the Scott McKennas, the Ryan Porteous, Ralston, and I go on. And I say, where's that been freshened up? We're decent in the middle of the park. Up front, the same as the defence. I feel we're deficient. And you've got Shea Adams, Tommy Conway, Kevin Nisbet back in, and James Wilson. That's not exactly firing me up with enthusiasm. Again,
Conway's been no bad. I don't know about Shea Adams. Conway's been decent.
I would like the boy Conway to start, and let's see if we can get something out of him, because his work rate, Cammy, is excellent, and that's the type of players you've got to work defenders, especially at that level, you know. So anyway,
the one thing we do have is, I'm going to say it, Dennis. I'm going to go out on a limb because we're nearly finishing the show, and it doesn't give you the chance to come back at me too much. But I think we have one of the best midfielders plying his trade in Europe just now in the shape of Scott McTominay. I think Scott McTominay, since he's gone to Napoli, has been an absolute revelation. Manchester United must be sitting there going, why the hell did we only get 28 million for that guy? You know, McTominay, to me, showing himself to be a 50 or a 60 million pound. In today's market, a 50 or a 60 million pound player with the performances he's putting in for Napoli, I think he's a reason that Napoli are challenging for the Scudetto. And I think he has been one of the outstanding half a dozen midfielders in Europe this season.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. I like him. Again, I go back to it. It looks as if anybody with talent doesn't come into my zone, because his work rate, again, is excellent. But when somebody's got talent and they've got work rate, you're almost the finished article.
Which McTominay has both in buckets.
Yeah. And, you know, you got McGinn as well. You've got people in that midfield, and Billy Gilmore. I think we're as strong as we've been in a long number of years, but it doesn't make up for lackluster up front. Shea Adams in there. When did he last score? Probably when I was about 30. And then you look at the defence, and you've got the same old. So I don't know if we can get better players. Maybe they're not there. I'm sure the guys out there are looking for them every week. But we just need to have a bit better if we want to get to the next level. We've done okay, but I'm not keeping keep more of my fingers crossed with these fixtures that are coming up, because they're not going to be easy. No. And then the Sunday, so that's Thursday, we're playing Greece, and then they play us at Hampden on Sunday the 23rd. That's 5 o'clock kickoff. Yeah. So that's it. I'll let you get to your bed, Cammy. On you go, son.
No worries, mate. Well, as I say, you have been listening, as always, to the Friday Night Football Pitch. Thanks, as always, to Dennis Newell. Thanks to our interloper for the 20 minutes in the shape of Tommy Ross. Thanks to you for listening. As I say, go ahead, as always, like, share, subscribe. It does help us out a ton. You know, let's get some of that algorithm in YouTube, where we're not always relying on TikTok to try and get some views. As I say, as always happening on the pitch. a very good night to you tonight. Good night.
Good night.